All right, go ahead, Jim. Be introspective about our retrospective. What were you saying?
I was thinking about that conversation we had with Mike Ashkowi just the other day about his contributions to the core book and the poetry that he writes and just all the things that he's involved in and that he does. And it's just continually amazing to me the caliber of people that we've brought into Star Trek Adventures and into the Star Trek family and stuff. And I mean, I guess not to pat myself on the back, but I brought so many of you all into this, and that you've all been willing to come with me. And I was just reflecting on how it's been, 4 years of shows and 8 years of the game, and we're just still growing and learning and adding new voices and. It's
amazing. It's the momentum's not stopping either. It's scary. In fact, I'm gonna brag on you in a little bit. We'll do our introductions, and I'll be my introspection, retrospection, introspection, circumspection in a moment. But I'm Michael. In fact, in my introduction, I'll kind of put where you've helped me grow too, especially in 2024. So I'm Michael Dismuke. I'm a freelance writer for Star Trek Adventures RPG. I'm the lead writer and designer, one of the designers for Captain's Log solo RPG. Phenomenal book. It went more popular than we ever thought it was going to go. I can't believe to still see people doing live plays of it online. In addition, I run a blog called Continuing Missions, which has been 8 years now. And that's where Jim found me, because I was writing like a maniac on there and is like, why don't you just write for us? And of course, this wonderful episode, which is number 100. And let's see here. This is episode 160, actually, of Continuing Conversations with my co-host. But because of him, it enabled me to also branch out into other stuff, which released this year, including Star Trek Explorer Magazine 11, which, again, because of my connections through Jim, Dayton Ward, who introduced me to John Freeman, I was able to get a chance, and I couldn't believe it. They accepted my pitch, and I got an article in here. So as Jim will point out, I'm no longer a fan fiction writer. I'm actually a Star Trek fiction writer, which makes me happy. But I've also been able to collaborate with some amazing talent that, again, Jim introduced me to, including Ashlyn Troy Mepians. He's also a writer for Star Trek Adventures, and he had this beautiful RPG come out. This is my first professional editing job in the sci-fi realm. Of course, I edit at work all the time in my day job, but being able to work on Ashland and some things that are going to be coming out in 2025 also, like Sentience, an Al Spader product which came out through Modiphius's 2D20. So that's how I'm able to introduce myself now, a lot of that because of the doors you opened. And of course, if people are wondering who I'm talking about, it's Jim Johnson.
Hey everybody, Jim Johnson. I'm the project manager and line editor for the Star Trek Adventures RPG, the Captain's Log solo RPG, a bunch of other projects, Buffer Time, Lower Decks card game, some other stuff in development right now that you'll be looking forward to in the next couple of years that I cannot talk about. And I'm also working on my own fiction. So I think that is how I bring this around to say, introspection, retrospection, working with Michael, working with Al, working with all these other great creatives on Star Trek Adventures and other projects. For the longest time, I've been working on the game line and getting you all involved and giving you opportunities to do stuff. And I've as a consequence, I've put a lot of my fiction writing on the side because I just haven't had the time and the bandwidth to do everything, right? And just within the last 6 months, I've been trying to refocus that a little bit so I can work on my stuff in addition to enabling you all to do your amazing stuff. And so I have been encouraged and inspired by all of you doing the things that you're doing. You and Al and Troy and other folks. It's like, oh man, I need to get my projects out the door too. Not just Modiphius and Star Trek Adventures, but also my stuff. So I'll be looking to do that more in 2025, and we'll just see what happens. Right? I know Picard says the sky's the limit. So So truly, the sky is the limit, and if we reach the sky, we push further, right? And we
Yeah.
just see what's next. But
And I don't think we've talked about it on this show, but me and Jim are kind of we hold each other to account. We're accountability partners, and it
sort
is
of.
again. Well. I love deadlines and I love accountability. So earlier this year, Jim had said, "Hey, let's be accountability partners. Let's spend the month of, I think it was August or September, to outline our own novels, non-IP related, our personal IPs." I took the challenge and I actually finished a 105,000 words for a novel, which is currently off to an editor right now. I honestly think it's crap because it's my very first novel. And so I'm scared and I'm freaking out about it. And I expect a lot of conceptual edits back. But the point of the matter is that I did it, and I wouldn't have had that motivation without you, Jim, to challenge me on that. And I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that, because I feel like I totally dropped the ball on the accountability side of things, because I was ready to go gung ho working on my outline for my 6-book series, and then Modiphius and life got in the way.
Well, let's be but let's be honest. The reason life got in the way is because Modiphius wanted you to do more because you do excellent work. So they gave you more responsibility, and being a paid writer, producer, project manager is not a bad thing.
Yes, good point. Good point. Although that being said, I still want to do my own stuff, so I want to get to it. But yeah, no, I think that's awesome, Michael. And I think the lesson there for all the prospective writers out there and the wannabes and the I'm going to do it is you did it. You wrote that draft. You got that draft done, and that, more than anything else, is what sets apart writers from wannabes. Is like you've actually got something in your hands, physical or or digital, but it's done. Now you can edit. Right? You can't edit a blank page.
Correct.
If you can't edit drabbles, like you got to finish something, whether it's a short story or a piece of flash fiction, novella, novelette, whatever. Write a thing, finish it, even if it's a crap draft. Right? Mm-hmm. Everybody writes crap initially, and then it gets better. Trust me, it really does. So no, congratulations. That is a gigantic achievement. No matter if it just sits on your desk for the rest of its life. You finished it. You have a thing now, and now the sky is open, right? You'll get your edits back. You'll review it. You'll fix it, whatever needs to be fixed, and then you'll decide what the next step is, whether it's self-publishing or pursuing a publisher or whatever. I mean, who knows what you'll do next? But I'm going to be your champion every step of the way. And anytime you want to ask me questions, I'll do my modest best to help you along. But I think pretty well.
Yeah, and I mean, for advice too, before we get into Star Trek Adventures Year in Review 2024, about all the products that came out too, it's about confidence building. Like if I was to give anybody advice now, it's like write a little. Like if all of a sudden you have the opportunity to write one paragraph for something that's going to be published, or maybe 2 paragraphs, or someone asks you to write a page, like that's happening to me more now, where people are saying, "Can you give me 500 words on this to include in this?" Or "Can you do a chapter for 5,000 words for an anthology?" And my confidence now is not if I can write. That's a big hurdle for some people to get over. Can I write? Can I transmit my things on paper? So you gave me that. But the next one is then only by writing, like you said, getting it on paper, can you then start refining it? It can't be refined if it's blank. And so I love that you said that, because that definitely is something I learned, is just write. Let the editors do their jobs. If they know you can write and they trust that you can take advice, they're going to send it back knowing that you're going to get it where it needs to be. Mm-hmm. So I mean, we could do a whole show on that.
I feel like we should at some point.
And I think we'll invite like Dayton Ward and Derek Tyler Attico, Kelly Fitzpatrick, some of our Scott Pearson, some of our friends and who actually do this really, full time, to say, get off your duff, get it on paper, let the editors do their job kind of conversation. Yeah. All right. Glad we got that. What a year 2024 was. So with that said, unless you have something else you want to add, Jim.
Nope. I'm gonna save it for that future show. But yeah, 2024 was an amazing year. I mean, not amazing, but it was a eventful year in many ways, not just for Star Trek, but just like the universe in general. This has been a bonkers year for so many reasons. And boy, am I great. And I'll talk about this in gratitude, but boy, am I grateful every day for Star Trek, because I've mentioned it many times on this show, but Star Trek has kept me sane for well over 9 years now, and it's not going to stop. It's gonna be my it's gonna be my North Star and my anchor for the foreseeable future with all the things that are going on in the world right now.
That's
So
right. Turn off the news, get Paramount Plus, and watch your Star Trek, and
yeah,
that'll get you through.
I've taken your advice retroactively. The day after the election, I closed my TikTok account, and I've divorced myself of X, and I've doubled down on Blue Sky, but that's because Blue Sky is a much better echo chamber than Twitter ever was.
Well, you got to go where the fans go too, and I've seen a
Yeah.
great migration of writers and creatives to other platforms. And
Yeah.
of course, if you want to promote your work, you want to go to those kind of platforms. So I put together this cool PowerPoint for people who are watching on YouTube. You'll be able to see the covers. But let's introduce as I go through, Jim. And you see me switch those slides. Go ahead and introduce, and let's talk about Star Trek Adventures Year in Review 2024. I didn't realize how much got done until you sent me all the different products. So let's start at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't it amazing? When you look back, you're like, "Oh my gosh, that was this year."
Mhm.
Yep. So yeah, we kicked it off. This was meant to be a 2023 product, but just by virtue of production schedules and delays and acts of God, acts of deity, however you want to call it, the Federation-Klingon War slipped from a Q4 23 release to a Q1 24 release.
If you would have asked me, I would have said 2023.
Yeah.
Because we worked on it so long. Like I think we started in 2021. Did we not?
We started working on it at the same time we started working on Captain's Log, so it's been a long time in the works.
Hmm.
Yeah, because you were lead writer on Captain's Log, and Al was lead writer on Fed Klingon War,
I'll
and
Spader, yeah.
so both those books were a long time in development, and it just Federation-Klingon War just got kind of snake bit in the middle of not development in graphic design, layout approvals, and then production. It was kind of the, I don't want to say it was the redheaded stepchild, but because like there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a fantastic book. It's an awesome product. It's just logistics, right? Just
Well,
got
Klingons never make it easy.
no, that's true. That's true. But I think uh gosh, this
What's your highlight? What's your highlight of the book when you think about it?
um the sheer amount of storytelling possibility that it adds to a campaign, or to be a campaign all unto itself. I think it took me longer than it should have for me to fully wrap my head around the possibilities of what this campaign was, and I think I didn't really truly fully appreciate it until after it was published and we started playing with it on the show, and just like spinning all these great stories, working through the campaign, the different turns and the different steps, and seeing that it can be a standalone game all by itself, like that whole tactical campaign component,
Yeah.
and how you can combine it with Captain's Log or STA to scale up, like that episode we did where we scaled it up and down and backwards and forwards and did all kinds of stuff with it. I think it's I mean, it's only been out 10 months or something. I think it's honestly, I think it's an underrated gem because there's just so much you can do with it, and I just can't wait for people to discover it and do more cool stuff with it. How about you?
Well,
What's your big takeaway from it?
I was impressed when I took it to the con. I took it to the D8 Summit, John Connor Self's D8 Summit over there in Dixon, Illinois. And I said, let's make a board game out of it. Printed out some cards that Al Spader had put together. We call them Spader cards now. You can find those on Continuing Missions. Just search Spader cards. And I played it. I was fortunate to play it with 3 people who work with Renegade Games out of Georgia. And these are game designers. And they were sitting there not only having a fun playing the game as a board game, but also giving me advice on how to improve it as a board game if I'm going to playing it in segments. So that was cool. Ben Heisler, Page, Sean Bangery, really excellent. And then I've seen other people actually go online and create their board games too to play the tactical campaign in person or online. And I almost feel like it was accidental, became an awesome high intensity board game. Where I was thinking, oh, this is a TTRPG and that's it. The fact that it actually, I don't know if that was an intention to become something that you could actually play around the table, almost like Risk. Was that just a fortunate evolution of the game?
Gosh, way back in the very early gestational phases of this product, we had conceptualized it being a box set, right?
Mm.
With like cards and maps and ship tokens and stuff. And then we went away from that and really focused it more on it being a book and a campaign, similar in some respects to the Shackleton Expanse, where we wanted to tell a long, connected story based on the war, and that tactical campaign just kind of came along when we got involved with Ivan Sorensen, and he put out the initial ideas on what the campaign piece of it could be, and then Al and his team took it and ran with it. And it became a new thing. And I don't think it was until after we were almost done with layout that I wish we had the budget to at least do a deck of cards, right? Because I think those Spader cards added so much to the experience. Like when you did the cards and we were doing the game virtually, and you had the assets, and like it just helped visualize things differently than just looking at the tables on the page. And I guess if there was one regret, I wish we had the budget that we could have done a deck of cards to go along with the book, so that you'd have that physical thing. But fortunately, the fans stepped up and made it happen. So,
Well, I'll be honest. The cost. It's RPG, and again, because I did a single copy for myself.
Yeah.
By the time I printed out the huge map of the Federation and Klingons, I printed out a beautiful huge map, which I still have, of the art that's at the front of the book, and I printed out all the Spader cards and made tokens and everything like that. My investment was about $150. But I now have this cool board game I can pull out anytime I want to. And, so not everyone can do that. But if you want to, all the elements are there at Continuing Mission for people to go and get these cards and print it out. Maybe they have cheap. I don't have at my home a color printer. If you do, then that's okay. I just I had to send it off to somebody to do for me. So that cost me a little bit more money. But most people nowadays seem to have like 3D printers for tokens and stuff like that. It's really cool. And if anybody ever wants to see how to play that, they could just go look back on old Continuing Conversations, type in Federation-Klingon War live play, and you'll be able to see me and Jim go at it with the cards and how to use them. So that was quite an achievement.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say about the Federation-Klingon War Tactical Campaign book is similar to Captain's Log. I really am gratified at how it has unleashed the creativity of so many people. I like on social media and like RPG.net and a few other places. In fact, there's an active ongoing thread on RPG.net right now where somebody is taking the tactical campaign and they're working through the Romulan War, and so that they're converting a lot of stuff. They're creating assets for the Romulan War. They're creating all this stuff using the same components of the tactical campaign, but for a different war. And I've seen there's been plenty of discussion on Facebook and Reddit and stuff about folks doing the Dominion War.
Well, Gareth Mugridge did. He did the cards on. You can go to Continuing Missions, type in Federation-Klingon War Dominion War, and you can get cards for the Dominion War.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's so much flexibility here, and hats off to Al and his team for putting together a really awesome product and some really cool game stuff. And I'll tell you, in 20 years when I'm done with the STA, probably, I don't know, I want to play this just for the sake of playing it, and like when I have a little bit more time in my schedule, because it's like just doing. That was one of the big highlights for me this year, Michael, was when we got to play this on the handful of shows and just spin stories and just use that tactical campaign, the tool set to make cool stuff. So I really enjoyed that, and I hope people take a fresh look at this.
Yeah, and I hope people also tune into the episode where you, me, and Al Spader talked about using this as 10,000-foot level Admiralty campaign, then how to zoom in to do single modules with your crew, and then even use Captain's Log to take individual stories. So we have an episode about that, which is one of my favorites to listen to, because, man, it's taking all the products and really creating a universe of fun. And this is what I would consider the top layer of that fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right. What else do we have this year in 2024?
Yeah. So, a variety of circumstances came up in the early part of the year where we knew we were cranking on second edition. We knew second edition would be coming out this summer, and so I really needed to do everything I could to kind of clear the deck, not just mentally, but just like product wise, and get a whole lot of stuff that we had been working on, or that I've been working on, and the writers have been working on for a number of months, and just push and just get it done. So I think we did either 4 or 5 mission brief packs and 4 or 5 standalone adventures. And instead of kind of teasing them out over the course of the year, we decided to do just one big glut, like in the early spring or mid spring, early summer or something. I think we had like 8 or 9 digital releases all come out really, really fast. And just as Layout was wrapping them up and as Paramount approved them. And you can see you got 4 of them here on the screen. And what I'm really excited about, we need to do an episode at some point, bringing some of these writers in to talk about their experiences, because we had some fresh faces here. We had Stephen Neer did Political Actions, Corey Belote did Alpha Quadrant. Of course, you did the Kittimer Accords, and then another new writer, Sam Burns. His Romulan briefs pack finally came out. I mean, that thing was mired in Paramount approvals, not through no fault of Sam's. It was just timing. And so these 4 briefs have been in the works for a while, and I was just glad we were finally able to get these out. Of course, the mission briefs are free downloads for folks. You can see 4 very different topics, 4 different time frames. Really nice spread of stories and possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so cool. This was the first Romulan mission brief pack, Romulan focus, and I think this was the first. Was this the first Klingon mission brief pack outside of the Klingon core rulebook?
I think so.
Yeah, and I think for me, Jim's always been nice to me. He knows I love 7 of 9, so I generally get to write whatever 7 of 9 happens. And I love Undiscovered Country. That's my favorite Star Trek movie of all time. Actually, I would say it's probably my favorite movie of all time. So being able to write this Klingon perspective on the Kittimer Accords was just like dream come true. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
All right. And then besides mission briefs, these free ones, we also had missions.
Yep. And gosh, I thought we had 5 briefs, but maybe I missed one. But yeah, so in addition to the many mission briefs, we also released more standalone adventures. Again, these are full length modules or missions, whatever you want to call it. 3-act structure. They are written for a particular time frame, but they can also be adapted for any time frame. With a little bit of work, you can convert them to a Klingon adventure or a Romulan adventure, whatever you're doing. Of course, with these are all first edition originally, but as with all first edition stuff, you can easily convert them to second edition. Just a little bit of work, tweak the stat blocks, tweak the extended tasks. You're off and running. The story is still perfectly intact. But yeah, again,
we had a first timer here. This was their first writing, Bill Barbado.
Yep. Bill Barbado, big Final Frontiersman, got a STA channel there. Big fan of the game, big supporter of the game. Got me a pitch. It must have been 2 years ago now. Time flies. And I liked the adventure. I commissioned it, and just through the circle of development and editing and approvals, I finally got it out there. So Ghost in the Machine, Bill, that it was interesting. This kind of ended up being 3 adventures all in kind of like the movie era. I don't know how that worked out. It may have been. I vaguely remember continuing conversations a couple years ago where I kind of complained about not having enough movie era pitches, and then I think like everybody sent me pitches. I'm like, oh damn, these are all good. Let's go.
Well, I think too, we all really were vibing off of Utopia Planitia because the art in that was like green and yellow or green and blue. And so I thought that was cool to see that. I think what's nice too, when I look at the names here, is the range. You got Bill Barbado, who's new, and then you'll have someone like Christopher Bennett, who's an established like Star Trek novelist, right? What great literature, when you look at the range of writers here.
Yeah, and Christopher, that was really exciting too, because that was our first foray into kind of the post Nemesis Picard era of play, and that was actually a tricky one. That was a tricky one to do, not from the writing standpoint, but once we got to layout, I was like, oh gosh, we don't have any assets for this era of play, like because first edition kind of stopped right around Nemesis, and
Mhm.
we were able to use the Elcar's design, right, and we updated the Elcar's design a little bit for the Voyager book, or for the Delta Quadrant book, and then we updated the palette again for lower decks, right? We
Yeah.
still use the Elcar's design, but we updated the color palette. And I was like, well, shoot, what do we do for Picard? Because we're not that far in the timeline. So that was actually a tricky one to put together because we just didn't have a lot of art. Of course, the standalone adventures are a very modest budget. We don't commission new art for the standalones, or have not commissioned art for the standalones, and so we were a little constrained. But I think the story stands on its own, and I think Christopher did a great job with it, and I hope people check it
Yeah.
out.
And again, for those of you who are watching on the or listening to a podcast, the four that we're highlighting here: Conflict of Values, which I wrote; Alternative Truths by Michael Duxbury, one of my favorite writers. Everything he puts out is so addictively good. Synthetic Diplomacy with Christopher Bennett, and as we mentioned, Ghost in the Machine by Bill Barbado.
Yep.
All right, now this was a surprise. Jim, talk to us about this one.
Uh, yeah, Buffer Time, the card game. So yeah, when we had the opportunity to do a card game in addition to the RPGs, and the development team started developing this game. Gosh, it must have been 2 years ago. Was it 2022? Maybe 2021, somewhere in there, and started banging it together, and we did a proof of concept, and we got that approved, and then we went into further development, and it went through a few different iterations and a couple different development cycles, and eventually we got it approved. I think we had wanted to get it out in 2023, but just multitude of factors pushed it into 24, and it's out there now. In fact, I think by the time this episode airs, Asmodee is our international distributor. They'll have it out there. Modifius is selling it on the web store, and hopefully it'll be fun. At Buffer Time, it's a push your luck, very light card game, very fun for 2 to 6 players. And I got my print proof copy a couple months ago, and my son can't put it down. He loves playing it. The cards.
Awesome.
The cards were so evocative because, like, the cards, have screenshots from the episodes.
Mhm.
And he was like, Dad, what's going on here? What's going on here? What's going on here? And so we started watching the show, and he loves the show, with a couple of exceptions of episodes which were
Yeah.
a little too much for him. But
Right.
overall, great fun game. Again, he's 9, so he totally loves the aesthetic. He really loves to push his luck. So sometimes that's feast or famine. But yeah, we're having a lot of fun with it. I hope folks enjoy it. It's really not a deep tactical game, so that's not, don't look for that. But if you need something to be a palate cleanser in between your game days, or if you are waiting in line at a convention, or you're waiting in an autograph line for somebody to sign your books or something, this is the perfect game to break out. 2 to 6 players, jump in, join, have fun, play the game. So this was a nice little secret that we kept under our hats for a good long time, and hopefully people will check it out because it's lower deck.
Was this the first time you project managed a card game like this, or a board game?
Nope. Yeah,
Nice.
this is the first one.
Okay,
Hopefully
cool.
the first of many, but we'll see how it goes.
Very good. And of course, 2024, this is where the drum roll comes in, because everyone was waiting for this. That's when you first mentioned it, when you first announced it, but it's right here, right? The 2E. I forget when you first announced it.
Other than the people that were working on it, nobody knew this was coming. This was a thunderclap in February, March, whenever it was when we announced it, because we had been working on this back in 2022, when we were developing it, and so you guys, of course, were all under NDAs and sworn to secrecy. But I think we announced in late February. Huge amount of conversation online about it. A lot of doomsaying, of course.
I love that. I loved sitting there like, oh, you just, yeah.
And it's all out there for posterity, so we can all go back and look at it and laugh. But it had its desired effect. People were talking about the game in ways that they hadn't been talking about it before, right? So that was really cool. So the quick start came out in April, May, something like that. And the core book, of course, came out in at Gen Con in
June.
August, along with
Oh,
the
August. Yeah,
along with
that's
the
right.
special editions,
Yeah.
and then the toolkit came out as well.
Oh, we'll get to those in a second.
Oh, sorry.
We'll get to those in a second. We're going to show those off. Let's talk about these three versions that are available. We're looking at them on screen,
Yep.
but let's talk about what you did there. For those who can't see it, why don't you describe what we're looking at?
Sure. Yeah. So the core rule book, we knew we wanted it to be, have a nice fresh standard edition with the artwork on it. We were very strongly inspired by the success of Strange New Worlds, and we really like that aesthetic and that color palette and that bright, hopeful design that's permeating in the series. And we're like, that's got to be Star Trek because, I think a lot of people forget, especially the long timers who've been with the game from the beginning. You kind of forget that when Star Trek Adventures came out in 2017, we came out before Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We were
Yeah.
actually at market like a month before Discovery came out. We had no idea what to expect from Discovery other than the handful of previews that everybody else saw online. We weren't, we didn't have scripts. We didn't know anything. Of course, Discovery wasn't even on the license at the time. So we were still fully 100% focused on the Legacy series. And in those 8 years, there's been so much new Star Trek that we had to refresh the game and make it even more inclusive of the totality that's Star Trek now, right? So Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks, Strange New Worlds, just everything. Like there's just so much new Trek now compared to what was here 8 years ago, and it was an opportunity to do really a top-down refresh of everything, not just the artwork but the design, the interior design. And Nathan took a great opportunity to really sink his teeth into the game itself and do a lot of refinements that he had wanted to do. In fact, we did a little bit of it going from the first edition into the Klingon gentle revision we did with the Klingon book, and then just take it forward, because in the space of time that we did the Klingon book, we also did the Player's Guide and the Game Master Guide, which both introduced a whole bunch of new mechanics and rules. And I know you were involved in both of those. That was some of your first work with STA,
Yeah,
if I
it
remember
was.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely some of my more comprehensive. I think with me, I mean, I literally have this book next to my couch
Yeah.
where I sit every day, and I flip through it aesthetically constantly. It's so easy for me to absorb, which we heard, you incorporate it. For those who don't know, some of the biggest changes in why second edition came out is incorporated 8 years of feedback, including some inclusivity issues about legibility, page color, flow charts. Is it built for neurodivergent, different learners? And I sit there, Jim, and I've almost memorized where to flip through in the book because it's so visually provocative to me. Like it's so easy to navigate now that I'm like, this is too simple. But the games are so much better and flow faster. As you know, I've been running the games on continuing conversations. I run them in person. I've run them, with people who played the old system, convert to the new system. And I just can't believe how easy it is. I mean, I think this is really a crown achievement in RPG.
I see it as an evolutionary step forward.
Mhm.
I think even though the book's been out for a couple of months, I think I'm still too close to it because there's still things I would have done differently if I had even more time. But I just tuck those notes away. Someday maybe I'll get to them, maybe not. But anyway, all that being said, we did a really nice art cover for the standard edition, and we made it inclusive with as many series as we could pack on. So for the second edition, we created an iconic cast of characters that you'll see sprinkled throughout all second edition products as much as possible. And we decided to instead of having them all be in like Strange New Worlds style uniforms, we decided to put each of them into a different uniform, different era of
Yeah.
play. So you've got a Monster Maroon on there, you've got original series, you got Next Gen, you got Enterprise, you got Voyager, you got 32nd Century Discovery. And when I was looking at that, I was like, okay, so this is great, but what's the story, right? What's the story? Why are these characters in different uniforms? There's got to be a reason other
Yep.
than just some marketing ploy to put all the different series on here, right? So I talked to Ariel Aurier, my art director, and I said, hey, I'm confident we have art assets and we have some reference pictures for the Guardian of Forever. Let's put
Yep.
that on the back cover, right? So that we can at
That's
least
great.
hint at some sort of story going on here. And fortunately, the artist did a great job putting the Galaxy of Forever or the Guardian of Forever on the back cover, Carl from Discovery is tipping his hat, and that's kind of my alter ego. That's me
Hmm.
tipping the hat to the fans out there in the world.
Yeah,
And
you're the
so
Stan Lee. You're the Stan Lee for
I'm the
STA.
Stan Lee. There you go. This is the only time I'll do a cameo in this in the game. So if you look at the gatefold, like if you look at the full art, and there's a poster in the toolkit, which we'll talk about in a minute. But so you'll see that whole story unfold, right? You got the ship in the background, you got the whole crew in their different uniforms, you got the Guardian Forever in the background, and I'm leaving it up to the players and the game masters. What in the world happened that
Hmm.
made this diverse cast of characters be in different uniforms, different timelines, different whatevers? Like, tell that story. Make those your characters. You make your own characters and tell us a cool story. So that was really
Yeah.
one of the goals there.
And one other thing about the books, before we talk about some of the other products to support TUI, if you go through and look at the art, there's a story in the art that connects also. So you'll see many of the same characters weave throughout the art through not only this book, but some of the other products we're going to talk about. And I've sat there and what I've done, Jim, I've actually taken pictures, screenshots of all of those, and I've put them in a private folder, and I'm trying to piece together a story. And
That's awesome.
and as you know, we are in playing with Merrick Moyer, BC Holmes, and Al Spader, the
Uh-huh.
USS Challenger, and those characters. And I'm hoping that as I go through and build adventures, that I can introduce that artwork. So I hate wasting artwork. I did it with all the other books. Shackleton, I screen clip and I throw it into my games. So I'm really encouraging people, yeah, use that art to bring your stories to life.
Yep, that's awesome, and you'll be excited to see the art that we're working on for the 2025 slate of products because it just continues the theme, diversity, inclusion, bringing these characters into different situations and circumstances. We're having a lot of fun with the artwork, so I can't wait for you to see it and react to it.
Well,
Uh,
here's what I'm challenging us to do as a
yeah.
group and also challenge other people to do. Because I've screenshotted the art, you see other people besides the senior staff. Like you see their support crew working in the story. And I'm
Mhm.
encouraging us to use those as our supporting characters.
Yep.
So we know what they look like because you're basically given art and screenshots of your people. So those are things I'm going to try to develop in our game, and I hope other people can do the same.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So in addition to the standard, of course, I'll go back one.
Okay.
We'll talk about the limited editions.
Sure.
We decided, well, based on the success of the collector's editions of the especially Utopia Planitia, I pushed and pushed
Mhm.
leadership to let us try some very limited number of collector's editions for this release, and we decided to do a very limited number as opposed to other collector's editions that we've done. And of course, because of Strange New Worlds / original series kind of aesthetic on the bulk of the game, we had to go with the classic red, blue, gold, and
Mhm.
with the command science and operations division logos on there, different quotes on the back, great thermal leatherette. It's a a vinyl kind of leatherette kind of product. It holds the debossing really well. It holds the foiling really well. Stephanie Toro is our designer at Modifius, who does all these fantastically amazing special edition covers. She did great work on these three, of course, and there's still a few copies of each one still available in the UK and US. Not to plug it, but like if you are a discerning fan like myself and you want a premium product for a premium game, one of these three books is the way to do it because they
I
are
have all three on my shelf.
absolutely beautiful. They have three bookmarks each, red, blue, gold, and of course the standard. We just didn't have the means to put a bookmark into the standard edition, but the collector's editions have three each. They are really, really nice. I'm so proud to have them on my shelf,
Yeah.
and they are so that's an option. And, certainly you don't need one, but if you are a big time Star Trek fan and you love good books, like I am, I'm just a fiend for really good quality books. These are really solid. I think we could have gone even further with them. We could have maybe put gilt on the edges, but you're just talking about increasing the cost even
Mhm.
more, and it's just like, okay, we got to stop somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love them. They feel really good.
Yeah.
I would say they're the only one that I gotta say feels even better is the Klingon core rulebook. That one, like I said, feels like a Bible. It's so it's
Yeah,
such a cool design.
it's a cool design, but also the fabric that we use on the Klingon cores,
Uh-huh.
it's really supple. I don't know.
It
I don't know. I don't
is.
remember what kind we used on it, but
It's like a baby's butt.
Okay, moving on.
All right. So let's talk about all this supplementary material for 2E and what differentiates them. So define for us, what is the quick start?
Yeah, the quick start. So the quick start is a 48 page 40 is it 48? Yeah, I think it's 48-page booklet. It's just enough of the rules to play the game. It's a short adventure that Fred Love wrote, and it's seven characters and the ship, and it's literally a quick start. It's meant to get you into the game as quick as possible, play the adventure, play the characters that are presented to you, and have a good couple of hours fun with your group. It was designed to be for beginners, so you don't need to know much about Star Trek. You don't need to know anything about STA other than what's in this booklet. We provided this as a PDF. We printed up a limited number of copies for Free RPG Day. Then we started selling the print copies on the web stores, and I think they're like $4, $5. They're pretty cheap. There's still copies out there if you want them, and they're really slick. And this was our first opportunity to kind of present the second edition aesthetic look and feel to the fan base, and it was also kind of the first opportunity for the fans to see A, how little we changed, but B, also how much we changed, just to get a feel for where we were going. And I think the quick start coming out, by and large, allayed a lot of fears, because I think some of the doom scrolling was oh, we're changing everything, like certain other game companies, when they go from edition to edition, they change everything. We're like, we're not really changing that much, we're just making some refinements and doing some tweaks here, and we're getting rid of the six-siders. But I think I noticed a market shift in the conversation between before the quick start came out and after the quick start came out, and so I think that put us on a good path moving forward toward the release of the core book.
Well, and I know, I was able to happily pass out 8 of these during Free RPG Day. I ran 2 games at local games of Berkeley, and new players, some who never knew anything about Star Trek before, watched any of the shows, took it home with them and loved it, and even asked if I would come back and play it again with them. So easily digestible, which made me really happy when I'm sitting out there play testing all of this. All right. And how does the quick start differentiate from the game toolkit?
Well, yeah. So the quick start is basically a summary of the rules and a short adventure and some pre-gen characters. So it's kind of an opportunity to get a taste for the game. The game toolkit is specifically a toolkit that is meant to supplement your core book purchase. So the game toolkit has a game master screen, a full color double-sided map, a short booklet that includes a whole bunch of new space frames, optional mechanics, and a whole bunch of reference cards that are useful for both players and game masters. So we thought about calling this the Game Master Toolkit, but given the content that we put into it, I was like, no, this is really a game toolkit. This is for players and for game masters. So I really wanted players to have the opportunity to get those reference cards, which are always going to be useful, and to give them more space frames, more rules, more options for their ship and for their crew. So I think that both game masters and players will find stuff in here to make use of.
Yeah, I heard really good things about the reference cards from people who've got their hands on them too. So that everyone, it's pretty much broken up by the positions on the bridge, and so you can hand people their appropriate one, and give them 5 minutes just to read it before jumping into the game. Say, hey, just read it, just be kind of familiar with it, and then you could just jump in to the game. So very nice quality product. I've again flipped through the booklet quite a bit because it has some really good additional material in there written by Nathan Dowdell too.
Yep, and some great artwork. Thomas Maroney over at Star Trek Online provided us some fantastic ship art, so we put as much of that ship art in there as we could. And the reference cards, I think I leaned on the side of more comprehensive than less comprehensive, which is probably a pro or con, but pretty comprehensive and a lot of page references back to the core book. I think they were printed on really nice, solid cardstock. So I think if you're a discerning player and you want to go get them laminated, or if you have a laminator at home, I think they will do you good service for a good long time, because it's always nice to have a card reference at the table. If you're physically at a table together, it's always nice to pass those around at a convention or for somebody to cross-reference or something. That way you don't have to worry about the book, right? You don't have to look at the book. You just have the reference cards.
Think about that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go get them laminated.
There you go.
Really good idea. Cool. Okay, and then how does the game toolkit, and we're coming up to our final one, differ from the starter set?
Yep. So the starter set is just something we just recently put on pre-order. The starter set is meant to be the game experience in a box. Again, it's a shortened version of the full rule set. So you've got basic task resolution, how do extended tasks work, how does combat work, how does social conflict work, etc. No character generation, of course, because we're expecting you just to play the game as we presented in the book. You got the pre-gen characters there. You got some reference cards, of course. You got the ship. You got a nice slate of tokens, and I was really excited that those tokens are double-sided. So on one side is the threat token, and on the other side is momentum. And because we included a whole bunch of new species in the core book, I wanted to have each of those species represented as momentum. So if you're playing a Klingon game, hey, look, you've got Klingon momentum tokens. If you're playing a Ferengi game, hey, look, you've got Ferengi momentum tokens. And then for the first time for STA, we actually created determination tokens. So you get a handful of determination tokens in the set. We did a unique set of dice for the starter set, 5d20 in a unique color. And that color was meant to kind of thematically link the starter set with the core book. That teal kind of jumps out on both covers. So we wanted that to be kind of present. And then, of course, Michael, you are closely involved with the campaign. There's a 3-part campaign included in the starter set, written by Merrick Moyer, Al Spader, and Michael Dismuke, which is a really cool story with a lot of interesting stuff going on. And the game toolkit is meant to complement the core book, but the game toolkit could also complement the starter set, because even though the reference cards are duplicative, the booklet in the toolkit is not duplicative of anything in the toolkit. So or the starter set. So like, I think, I haven't thought about this too hard, but I think a group could buy the starter set, play through that campaign, get the toolkit, and add those space frames and stuff to the game and the other optional rules. And you could probably get away with playing more Star Trek adventures without even buying the core book, right? Like if you got the toolkit and the starter set, those complement each other pretty nicely. And you could go off and have more adventures, especially if you download some of the free mission brief packs, right? You could do a whole bunch of stories without even touching character generation in the core book. You have to think about.
Yeah, with just the starter set alone, you're going to get 3 missions plus 3 mission briefs. So that's 6 stories right there. And then, like you said, just go pick up mission briefs after that. And mission briefs can keep you busy for years.
Yeah, we've got hundreds of mission briefs and over 100 standalone adventures. So like, if you don't buy the core book, okay, you still got a decade of gaming stuff to get through with just the starter set and all the free stuff that's out there.
Exactly. It's crazy. So man, what are your, let's just quick wrapping up again. We had the Federation-Klingon War Tactical Campaign. We had 4 mission briefs that are free that you can download. You had 4 mission modules that are a little bit more comprehensive. I love these because they have a bunch of puzzle pieces you can use to create your own adventure. I love mixing and matching those. We had the amazing Lower Decks Buffer Time card game. We had the release of Star Trek Adventures 2E, resoundingly amazing with these special editions. And then, of course, all the cool support products, which include the Quick Start, the game toolkit, which has the map and the Game Master's board, Game Master's screen, and finally the starter set. Jim, are you tired yet?
I have been in a perpetual state of exhaustion for 8 years.
Right. Well, you have a kid, so you'll be in a perpetual state of exhaustion for the rest of your life.
But I think I think for me personally, it is a huge amount of satisfaction that all of those second edition products came out or were at least released for pre-order. I don't know if we'll get the starter set out. The starter set might just start reaching people by Christmas. We'll see how distribution does. But to get a quick start, core book, toolkit, and starter set all wrapped up this year and printed and distributed is a gigantic. I mean, I don't think you appreciate fully how much work is involved in that.
I did the captain's log and stressed out. Remember that was so I don't know how you do this.
And these things were in development since 2022. So you're talking 2 solid years of work on all 4 for those products, plus the extra covers and stuff, plus buffer time, right? So huge amount of work. Super rewarding though, because like every day I look at social media for the game, and people are excited about it, picking up the book, talking about it, asking questions about it. We just recently released the first errata file for second edition, and I didn't appreciate it because I've been so in the weeds working on the next slate of products for 2025. When the development team put the errata together for me to review before we released it, I was like, that's it. There's not more, because like by and large, and again, I'm not patting myself on the back, but it's just a testament to the entire team and how much work we put into it over the last 2 years. That errata file is pretty thin. It's mostly clarifications and typos.
Right.
There aren't really any wholesale fixes that are in there, other than a couple layout gaffes that we didn't catch until it was far too late. But by and large, like when we do the revision and we do an inevitable reprint, there aren't going to be a lot of changes, and I'm really happy about that. So
it's quite high quality product. I mean, I expect
thanks.
I expect a couple awards to roll Modifius way with it.
Oh, I haven't even thought about that. Gosh.
I expect it.
That's a good point.
I mean, look what already got awarded, right? The Utopia Planitia got an award. Captain's Log, I think, picked up a nomination, right? So I wouldn't be surprised at all. And it's been nice from my observance of social media. So many people who are new to RPGs are picking this up as their first RPG, and that gets me. I love that. It's like they didn't have to go to the big RPG that's so popular. They chose this to be their game, and that to me is very special.
Yep, we are the kings of this particular niche. the niche within a niche within a niche. We are rocking this Star Trek niche. So I'm very, very pleased about that.
All right. Well, my gratitude list would be too long for this because I would like to read out all the names of everybody who was a creator in 2024. We've had a lot of them on the show. We want to premiere even more of them. If you're one of the creators and you've touched this product and we haven't had you on the show, just ping us. Okay, we'll get you on the show. I'm telling you, we have a long line, and there's so many names out there. So thank you all for such an amazing year, Jim.
Yeah, my thanks goes out to everybody on the Star Trek Adventures team who contributed in one way or another to all these releases and all the releases to come. All the new writers who've reached out for pitching, and everybody who's been involved. Especially, I want to send gratitude to Modifius's brand team. I think they really got behind second edition, and they did some Herculean work behind the scenes, getting out review copies, getting out influencer copies. We sent out really cool invitations for people going to Gen Con to go pick up their influencer copy at the booth. We did so much for Star Trek Adventures on a marketing standpoint that I've never seen before. And it was just really exciting to see how hard they were pushing and how hard they were working to get the word out. So my hat's off to the brand team. I'm so grateful for everything that they do day in and day out. And of course the fans, right? Again, the fan feedback was great over the last 8 years. If we hadn't been getting that fan feedback, we would not have done a second edition. We'd still be trucking along on putting out incremental first edition releases, I think. But the time was right. The feedback was great. And so the fans, this edition was for you, right? Like, I'm a super fan of Star Trek. I took all your advice to heart. I've been learning over the last 8 years. You've all been learning, and I think all my passion and love for Star Trek got into this book. I think if you read the foreword, you'll see it. It's there. You guys know me. I wear my Star Trek heart on my sleeve, and it's all there. So my gratitude is to all of you. This is my love letter to all of you for Star Trek Adventures and Star Trek RPG. I hope you take this, and I hope you go tell amazing stories with it. That is my mandate to everybody, is take this tool set, take all these tools like the tactical campaign, Captain's Log, and the core book. There's so many different ways to play this game now. There's Star Trek here for everybody, right? We've given you so many tools over the last 8 years that there is no way you can't possibly tell some sort of cool Star Trek story with what we've presented to you. And I want to read them. I want to see them online. So please share, because I am a sponge for Star Trek stories.
Well said, well said. And thank you to you, Jim, for a wonderful 2024. I guess I'll see you in 2025 when we get into our 161st episode.
All right, let's go. Year 4.
Oh my God. All right. Until next time, everyone, the conversation continues. IDIC.
Live long and prosper. Be safe, be well. We'll talk to you all next time.